All right, so we're going to do something a little different here. We're going to actually start with our limits. So take your ruler and put it on the side of your page, just like here, and then draw a line. So we're drawing a border the width of our ruler all the way around until we have a rectangle on our page. It's usually an inch or an inch and a half all the way around. As you can see here, using the width of my ruler and creating a border. This is going to be our limit, our window, so that we can make our drawing as big on the page as possible. The image must touch at least 3 lines for it to be big enough. So it could be 4, but at least 3 here, depending on your proportion. So let's check the proportion, right? Finding our unit of 1, which is going to be my width, and see how many times my width fits into my height. So it's roughly 1 to 1 and a little under a half. So 1 to 1 4/10, meaning 2/5. So here's my 1, and then 1 and little short right here. I got lucky enough that it fits on my page like so. You might have to extend your line or adjust your border to accommodate, but make sure your portrait's starting out touching at least 3 lines. And now let's find my highest point, my lowest point, my point furthest to the left, and my point furthest to the right. So I'm using my string to find those in space. Now I'll begin with my intercross. Start with my highest point, lowest point, check it again. Now I'm trying to find that point furthest to the left since it's so far away. I don't always have to do the order. I can always go back to a point just to make sure it's there and make sure the whole drawing is calibrated. So highest point, popping over to the left point to find that point furthest to the right. Once I'm confident, I'm going to check them against each other, make sure my highest points and my lowest points are indeed where they need to be. So this is indeed below this point, but I actually found that my bottom point worked well with the first one I drew. So I'm going to erase this one. And yeah, now I feel pretty good about that. Just do a few more checks, and then I'll proceed with more points in space. So starting at my highest point, I will proceed with descending intercross to label important areas that will help me draw this accurate. So I'll move around the face, make sure I'm getting those key parts of information all the way around those major planes that will help me create a 3-dimensional figure. I'm not worrying about it being right. I just want to quickly get all this information down, record it, knock it back, and begin to work on top. Once I've pushed them back, I'm going to go ahead and work with more detail right on top. Now, this is just going to help me begin to generalize the form. I'm working simply here just to make sure all my points are working together and that I'm actually able to draw effectively before I get to the detail. So I'm just moving around kind of in a hasty pace here, analyzing and making sure all my points are working together. Remember, you're spending more time looking at your model or your portrait than you are looking at the page. So as I move around, my eye is traveling along the planes of my own face, and I'm trusting that my hand is in coordination with my vision here. I'm just glancing back down just to check and see again that there is a successful communication between the two. I know that I'm going to work on top of this with more finite, more intricate line work, so that's why I'm starting general. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the drawing so you can see the process. As you can see, these shapes are bigger, quicker. Again, I'm just trying to figure out what I've drawn, correcting any points in space so that I can move towards more detailed descriptive drawing. You can decide where to start, but now I'm going to slow down my drawing and go with the detail here. I'm starting at my bottom lip and moving around using everything I've learned so far, including cross contour. So moving around wherever my eye goes, my pencil records it. Again, there's a trust system between my pencil and what I'm seeing. I'm recording what I'm observing, slowing down how I'm observing, and making sure what's being put on the page is actually recording this. So now you can see the speed is much slower. Trying to get the detail and the accuracy. Nothing should be generic at this point. It should be descriptive. I'm using the continuous line pretty much when I draw here so that I am working with the planes that I'm observing and not drawing generic, almost symbol-like forms. I want what I'm drawing to be accurate and descriptive. As I draw, I'm like a discoverer, finding a new planet and recording everything I see. The line work starts out very faint, very light, but the more I want to emphasize it, the more I go over it with new, darker lines and new information. I don't want the drawing to appear sketchy or having too much chaotic lines, so each time I draw over top of the line, I'm making sure it's new information that adds to the contour. I hope you'll continue to watch as I draw and add more detail. Notice how I move around. I'm not just drawing outlines here. I'm working on areas that are difficult to see and trying to identify what they're doing in space. My goal here is to create volume and a three-dimensional portrait on a two-dimensional surface. As you can see, I correct a lot. It's important to correct, not just when you make a mistake, but when you know you can do it better. I oftentimes draw and I'm never satisfied with it, so I erase it and I can work right on top of it with a more finite, detailed, descriptive mark. So I'll continue to build out the form, working in a continuous line, looking for those planes, taking in everything I've learned from straight line analysis all the way up, even with some blind contour in there, to create an accurate portrait.